Hey, have you ever wondered what a residual limb feels like? Well, I can tell you what one feels like because I have one right here. This is my above knee residual limb, or stump as you might call it, or nub as you might call it. There are a bunch of words. You can use whatever words you want. None of them really bother me. Whatever makes you feel good. Anyway, so a lot of people want to know what it feels like to touch a residual limb. And I think this question is really interesting because it's kind of hard to answer. It's like, what does it feel like to touch your leg? And it just feels like touching your leg. So I touch my leg, and it feels like touching my leg. But there are some things about a residual limb that feels different from a regular leg. So for example, I still have some internal sutures from my recent surgery on my residual limb. And so when I run my hand along the scar line, I can feel all these little bumps under the skin. And those bumps are the internal sutures that have not yet dissolved. I had surgery on my residual limb 4.5 weeks ago, and so those bumps are still there, but they will resolve over time. One really interesting thing is if I rub my finger back and forth across my residual limb like this, perpendicular to the scar, there's an abrupt sensation change. What it feels like is that it's going from the back and then the front. So I'm touching the back and then the front, like this. And the reason for that is because of the way that sensation is wired in your body. So these nerves here are for what in my brain map considers the back of my leg, and then the nerves that go here and end are for what my brain map considers the front of my leg. And so when I rub my fingers across my residual limb scar like this, it feels like there's an abrupt change going from the front of my residual limb to the back of my residual limb. And when I run my hand along the scar line like this, it's sort of like it's extra sensitive, kind of tickly. Like I feel like maybe if somebody else were doing it, it might tickle, but I'm doing it and I can't tickle myself. If you squeeze my leg, it's relatively firm. It's actually firmer than my actual leg because I got, a little bit of fat right here, which I don't have here. To be honest, it's kind of like squishing a boob with a bone in it, or maybe like a butt with a bone in it. And I can feel the bone. So if I press around here with my fingers, I feel the bone in there. When I use the muscles of my residual limb and I move like this, that is bending my knee, extending, bending, and extending. It kind of feels crampy. There's like a cramp sort of happening up in here, but it's not really uncomfortable. It's just kind of something that's there. And then when I do this, you might be able to see like a little pop happen right there. There are some muscles that are attached to the end of my femur, but then there are some muscles that are just over the end of my femur. And what I'm feeling when I do this is my muscle rolling over the end of my femur. Some of the areas of my suture line are still a little bit uncomfortable. Like right here, when I touch my suture line, it feels like a little bit of a burning sort of sunburn sensation, but it's not anything that's not tolerable, obviously, because I'm touching my limb here. And then over here, the same thing. It's really super sensitive, like kind of like a sunburn feeling when I rub my hands on it. Here feels normal, just feels like a thigh. And there feels normal, it just feels like I'm touching the back of my thigh. That feeling right there, totally identical. And that feeling right there, totally identical. So most of the weird sensation is on the suture line, and that is what it feels like to touch my own residual limb. Thanks for watching. Happy touching. Bye.